Well, welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. And before we get started, you might remember the little clip we did about radios and listening to Life with Dexter and programs like that, The Goon Show. Well, behind me here is an array of the radios that were around in the 40s, 50s and 60s. And most people had a radio, something similar to what we've got here, sitting on the mantelpiece or on a sideboard or somewhere like that to entertain themselves by listening to the radio. And what I'm leaning on here is a radiogram. So if I lift this up, there's a record player, and they played mainly 78s, but yeah, this says one speed, 78 and 45. So these play 45s and 78s. Then there's a little stacker thing here that you lift it up. You put the records on, you put this back on, and so you could have 3 or 4 or 5 records stacked on top of each other, so when one stopped playing it would come out, drop the next one, and on it would go again, and you'd get 4 or 5 records playing out of one shot, if you like. So the old radiogram record player, really flash. Well, I'm with my good friend Stuart Corker, otherwise known as Captain Asparagus, and I won't spend the time telling you why he's called Captain Asparagus, apart from it has to do with asparagus. And anyway, we're up the harbour here at Whitianga. It's a bit windy on the outside, so we've decided to come in, and what Stuart's got here is a whole bunch of
soft plastics.
Soft plastics. And you're going to choose something here, Stuart, and see how we get on.
Well, I like, up the harbour here, it's always fairly murky, so I've already got my little jig head on, but I like your brown golds for up here. I like, well, that and your green golds and your...
Where's the gold on
anything. Well, it's got green and
goldy flecks that you can't quite see.
Yeah, you can't quite see it on the thing, but it's got flecks in it. I suspect that we want to go something fairly small.
Yeah,
so
it's not all that deep. What's it say on the sounder?
It's only 2 metres.
2 metres?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I reckon something like that. It's just a nice little wee doofer. It's got the little square paddle tail on the back, so it swims along quite nicely. And I'll just pop it on. Yeah, put them on like so. Wind it around, and it should pop out around about there, I guess. Just shove that up, and there you go. That's how it hangs, just like that. And I will flop that out into the current. We've got I put a little burley bag over the back, so the little burley stuff. So yeah, we'll see what we can find. Maybe a little snapper, or a carwai, or a Harbour Trev, or whatever. Sometimes you even get like eagle rays and stuff, which is stimulating and quite a good fight, but not a lot of point. So it's my one concern with that thing is that it's a very light gauge hook. So if you have a really decent sized fish, I mean that's a big booty hook. You can see the size of that, and that'll hold like a 20 pounder. But up here it's a bit overkill. So that there's the good thing about a light gauge hook is that they are easy to hook set.
It says 1/6.
Yeah, so 1/6 of an ounce.
Oh, okay. No,
it's a little owner sold by Berkeley.
This is an owner hook, and you're worried about it?
Owner hook. Well, it's still light, you know. Okay. But I am only using, it's only 6 pound line, so it's not like I'm going for like meat hunting tactics. So yeah, we'll flick this out and we'll see how it goes.
Righto.
It's a size 1 hook.
Okay.
So there you go. I'll put the lid back on these.
I'm going to do that.
There you go. You get rid of that.
Get yourself psyched up, ready to throw that lure out the back.
I am well psyched. All right, here we go. And I've got my anchor I've got one of the little Minn Kota electric motors out the front that I use as my anchor, which is very handy because if you don't like your spot, you just take it off anchor lock and motor head to where you want to go. So
and put it back on anchor lock.
And then put it back on anchor lock.
Show us that little doof.
That's the little doof flicker. There you go. It's that's the little remote. So I operate it from where I'm sitting, and it's just great. It's just showing it's on anchor lock at the moment. I could drive anywhere I want on this. Gets up to about 2 or 3 knots, which is all right. But yeah, so we'll let it do its job, and we'll see how this goes. See there's the little lure out there in the water. I'll flick it out the back, And we just flick it out there. Ciao. We just let it sit out there. Boom. Yeah, well, it's I got into the soft baits out here because we used to drift along and we caught lots of snapper. We used to get like 40 centimetre snapper a lot out here, and it was a pile of fun. We had good fun on this. Here we are.
Go, Captain.
Just sitting here, 2 hours from high tide with a little bit of burley trail going behind the back of the boat. We're sitting here with a soft plastic. Whoa! And something came up and gave it a yaffle. What I'm concerned about is that it's got a reasonable amount of horsepower to it, and that it's only a very light gauge hook. So hopefully we'll be able to coax this thing to come back towards us a bit. It's coming across the back of the boat here now. This wind can go away. Wow, it's swimming up current. Wonder if we could see what it is. Good. There it is, trevally, by the looks. Nice trevally. Bill, could you use the net for me, please?
Yep.
And there's the bottom. You can see the bottom of the... There you go, Bill. Here we are. Nice little trevally. Whoa, come on, up your... No, come on. Come on.
Look at those colours.
There we go. Now that is a nice little Whittianga Harbour trevally, folks, on the soft plastic. Beautiful little fish. Very nice. And that there will be either excellent sashimi, or what's really going to happen to it is I'm going to turn it into a nice bit of smoked trevally. Pop it in the smoker tonight. But there, we have to go back and try and get a few more of those, eh? I'll just hang on. I'll just get my little wee lip gripper out so I can lift it out for you. Lip grippers, folks, get some of these things. They're blooming valuable. Just in the bottom jaw like that. Come on. Take it. The hook off it there. There you go. There you go, folks. That's a nice little harbour trevally. And on 6 pound line, like little 6 pound swim set, that's quite a bit of fun. So there you go. And that was on, let's see, where's the soft plastic? That little fella right there. A little wee soft bait. As you can see, just dangling in the current. Ta-da! Oops, stay still, you. Ta-da!
Just to conclude the story about this trevally, when we filleted it, it was full of little crabs, and absolutely full. So I'm actually surprised that it took the time to actually eat the captain's little soft plastic. And as he said, we smoked it, and then the captain had it for tea. So one little fish fed us all, and we actually found out a little bit more about trevally. I didn't know they actually ate this many crabs. Amazing. When I was a kid, most of us had a tricycle that looked pretty much like that. This is a flash one. It had a little bin in the back that you could put something in, and a bottle of milk or something, or a loaf of bread, and cart it back from the Four Square store home. My one had just a little slope down the back here and two little clips on the back that you put your feet on. So all I could do really was just take my mate for a ride around the block. But it's great to see one of these again, and I'm sure you had one as well. Well, I'm at Parakao, and what we're going to look at here is we're going to talk to our mate Gavin, who's got this whole collection here, and we're going to wander around this place and have a bit of a squiz. Well, with me is Gavin, and Gavin, welcome to our little show. And Gavin's got a cafe at a place called
Parakao.
Parakao, there we go. And he's got a collection of all sorts of things here at his cafe, and if you come here, You're just going, wow, look at that, look at that, look at that, for about an hour and a half. And out the back here has got this 1929 Chev 6-cylinder.
Yep.
And yeah, you wouldn't think so to look at it. It just looks like another sort of 1920s style car with a 4-cylinder perhaps in it. Yeah. So this is a delivery. It's a van. I always thought, you know, a truck like this that delivered bread or whatever was a van. But no, they tell me it's called a delivery. Because at the various car shows we go to, and there's the delivery section, and this car and that car and that car are in the delivery section, so I guess they're
Deliveries.
officially deliveries, yeah. Can we have a look at this 6-cylinder engine? The old butterfly. You see those these days, it's just the bonnet goes up. And there it is, the 6-cylinder engine.
Updraft.
Updraft carburetor. Goes like a...
Pretty much the same right through to 92. They hardly changed these motors. The same complete setup. They changed where the spark plugs sit and made it oil fed.
Wasn't there something called a dipper?
Yeah. These are lucky dip. Yeah.
Okay.
Dipper right up till 54.
Wow. So it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. And then we come along to this cab here. Inside here, it's got the what I call the tape measure speedo. You know, the numbers sort of go round and round, round and round. And you were saying that they...
Yeah, they shake, so you're doing anything from 35 to 40. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And you've got the accelerator between the brake and the clutch.
Yep.
And off to the right hand side, there's you push a button that pushes the makes the starter motor go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think on the left-hand drive ones, the accelerator's in the right place.
Oh, okay.
It's only in the right-hand drive ones that they put it in the centre. I think.
There's reasons for that. I think, you know, that something's in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we'll just do this.
Yep.
And that's what they did. Yeah. The seat that you do.
Oh, the Bruce, who built the car, his wife did that at home.
Oh, okay. She's done a marvellous job.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the woodwork behind the seat there with that window.
Oh, he was a chippy by trade, and the woodwork's outstanding in it. Yeah.
Amazing. Next door we've got a Plymouth.
Yeah, it's a 37.
37?
Yep.
So they've gone from this square shape to this sort of, you know, roundy sort of a shape. So the car designers have sort of think, oh, let's look at flash.
Yeah. First year with the hydraulic shocks, so...
Well, that would have been popular.
It handles real good. Yeah, I think they outsold Ford and Chev this year at Plymouth, just for that fact.
Wow. And during this time, everybody and his dog's thinking outside the square. They're inventing the whole time, up until about 1950 something, when pretty much everything's been invented.
Yeah.
It's just being improved upon, you know. In 1915, when you had electric, steam and petrol, everybody thought that the mainstream engine was going to be steam. But Henry Ford invented his Tin Lizzie, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, petrol.
So we all went to the petrol. Yeah, nice, easy to start. You don't send the kids out, get that steam truck going, half an hour later it's going, Dad.
Yeah.
The petrol was certainly the way to go. Can we have a look at the engine in this?
Yep. Oh, shit.
Wow.
Flathead. Downdraft carb though.
Do you think there's an advantage between updraft and downdraft?
Oh, definitely downdraft. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why they would invent an updraft.
No, but that came first, so that's obviously where the thoughts were.
Yeah.
And if we look in this cab, the accelerator's in the same spot. The lovely, well, I suppose it's supposed to imitate wood dash.
Yeah.
Yeah, the seating is in the comfortable, and if I got in the back, the amount of room here is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, the plenty of room, right?
That's just absolute luxury. Tons of leg room. Suicide doors means you get in and out, no worries at all. lovely little rest to lean your arm on, and you're a bit Lord Muckish in the back here. Awesome.
A lot of this car's original paint.
Oh, okay.
And then from the front, they did the guard's bonnet and grille, repainted it. And if you take a picture of it at night, they're a different colour.
Really?
Yeah. You can tell the different, must be the pigment in the paint or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you take a picture at night, the front guards, that door, front guards, and the bonnet are a different colour.
Oh well. They've certainly gone out of their way to do a stylish sort of a grille, haven't they?
Yeah.
Lovely logos there.
Yeah.
And I think Chrysler DeSoto, I think they did those as well.
Yeah.
Fargos, I think they did Fargos. But they also made these in England.
All right, yeah.
The Q people built the same sort of thing, only in trucks. So Fargo, Plymouth, DeSoto, Radi-Ro.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, next door we've got a 52 Chev.
Yep. '52. It's got a 1964, I think. Fully oil-fed motor in it. It goes really good, and it should have a scoop-fed Lucky Dip engine, but someone's put a new one in it. So we did it up like just like an old race car that come out of a barn. So it's original paint, and then we just signed it, Trev and Brad Walters.
It's amazing how many car builders sort of copied other car builders, because I've got a 1951 Studebaker, which pretty much is very similar. You know, the scoop around the mudguard that comes into the door, the way the bonnet sort of does what it does. You know, the side of the mudguards. Spent a lot of time, with an aggressive grill.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the old shark tooth grill, eh?
Shark tooth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Parakao is a great destination. Lots of car clubs and other clubs travel to Parakao as a destination and enjoy what the Parakao store has to offer. Gavin and his family are great hosts, and there's lots to look at while you're there. You can get a meal there, lunch, dinner, and there's plenty of seating with some great views down the Parakao Valley. How to get there? Well, easiest way is to go to Mungataperi, that's where the Packard Museum is, and turn up Mangakahia Road and follow that road out 27k to Parakao. They often have a band there, and you can find out by calling Gavin on 09 433 1889. That's 09 433 1889. We'll be continuing our story about the Parakao store in next week's show. What I've got here is a copy of Talking Trucks. This is a book I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's the history of New Zealand trucking. And it's all from the programs that I did between 2013 and 2016. I'm going to let this go for $25. So it's a special. Christmas is coming up. So if you'd like your copy, there's my phone number, 027 277 0717. Just send me a text. Or email me, billhoheper@extra.co.nz to get your copy. $25 and the history of New Zealand trucks. The second Wheels at Wanaka event is on this coming Easter in 2021, and that's on Saturday and Sunday the 3rd and 4th of April. They're planning a bigger and brighter event with more vehicles and machines working as well as on display. Cars, trucks, tractors, traction engines, scrapers, dozers, graders, the lot. If it's got wheels, it'll be represented at this amazing event. They're having an earth moving only day on Good Friday the 2nd of April, and there's a $10 entry for this. So go to the webpage www.wheelsofwanaka.co.nz for more information. We'll be there filming the event, so we look forward to seeing you there. And with me is a very good friend of mine, Peter Walton. And Peter is an air flyer, a pilot, and really enjoys what he does. And in his hangar here, he's got a couple of aeroplanes, and the first one is a Fokker triplane. Is that what it's called?
Yep, Fokker DR1 triplane.
Triplane. And I seem when I was young, I read all the war comics. You know, that's what you did back in the day. And one of the comics, or even a couple of comics, were about the pilots who flew those triplanes and having a bit of fun with machine guns, etc., etc. And so that's about my entire knowledge of triplanes. But just starting from the beginning, you were telling me before that the British started with the triplanes.
Yes, the Brits made a Sopwith. Sopwith built a three-wing aeroplane and often nicknamed the Tripe, you know, sort of triplane. So it was a Sopwith triplane, and it was quite successful in its day. But back then, of course, the ebb and flow of who was ahead and who was behind swapped backwards and forwards, you know, quite often. And for a short period, the Sopwith triplane was doing quite well, and so Fokker got given the instructions to quickly build a triplane for the Germans, and hence the DR1 triplane, Fokker triplane.
So tell me about Sopwith. It was Sopwith?
Yeah, Sopwith.
Sopwith. That's a British company who built aeroplanes.
Yep, well, they made all sorts of things.
But it was all, like all I'm recalling is the Sopwith Camel.
Yeah, they made the Camel.
And I'm just wondering, do you know why they called it a camel?
Yeah, well, it had a cover over the machine guns, because what would happen is the oil and grease that they had in the old days, not quite as good as today, probably whale oil or something, and in the freezing cold, the guns would jam, and so they put this cover over the top of the guns to keep some of the heat from the engine around the guns, to keep the grease from freezing, and that hump was why they called it the Camel.
Oh, okay. Well, you've answered a question.
There
I've always wondered why they called it a camel. Now I know.
There you go.
So, first of all, what made you sort of build a triplane in the first place?
Well, I guess it came back from when I was a kid, you know, making, you know, airfix models and stuff like that. You know, you always had a plastic model you were playing around with. They were pretty cheap when we were kids. And there was something about the triplane, the Red Baron. And I always had a hankering to build something like that. Something between, you know, magnificent men and their flying machines and the First World War. And then this got in the way. I was at the Tauranga Air Show many years ago, about 2005 or so, with my brother, and there's a company was selling these kits, and I sort of got pushed into one of these. And
So you built this as well?
yep, well, a friend of mine, Mike Crean, did more than me on it. But it's been flying 10 years. But in the back, there was always this hankering to have a triplane. And then I was travelling through the States and came across a company in Missouri, and they built a number of First World War aeroplane kits. So I thought, well, I'll buy one of those kits and bring it down here and get into it. And that's what happened.
So it's like your model.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a bit more difficult than the model. The model, all the pieces were already the right shape. You just had to glue them together. This was a collection of straight tubing that all had to be bent and cut and all of that stuff.
And so you've got the model, now you need to put an engine in it. And I just seem to remember that the engines in those things were the
rotaries.
Yeah, so the pistons went around.
Yep.
And the propeller was attached to whatever holding those on.
Yep.
And so that whole engine is going around a crankshaft.
Yeah, so the propeller was bolted onto the block, the cylinder block, and the crankshaft was bolted onto the aeroplane, which is the opposite to what
you would expect.
what happens today.
Yeah, right.
And they were called rotary engines, and of course now people, when you talk about a rotary engine, they think of a Mazda,
Yeah.
you know, with a Wankel engine, but those were the initial rotary engines.
Right, and what have you got in it now?
Well, then I have, in the Fokker, I've got a Lycoming 0290, which is 290 cubic inches. It's a 4-cylinder horizontally opposed engine. Yeah, so like a VW engine, except much bigger, 290
And for the
cubic
truckies
inches.
out to you, it's a little bit like a TS3, comma.
Yeah, well, a TS3 has 3 cylinders and 6 pistons. This has got 4 cylinders and 4 pistons.
Oh,
so.
right.
So yeah, so that's what we've got. I was sort of going for a bit of safety and stuff, and those engines are relatively cheap. So we thought we'd put that in and see how we go. And maybe at some stage in the future we might put a radial in it, which looks like a rotary, but that's one where the crankshaft is bolted to the propeller and the block's bolted to the aeroplane.
Back in that time, back in World War One, I mean, everybody's inventing stuff furiously. You know, different ideas coming out every month. You know, what's that? Oh, I know. Let's go and see. You know, but even with the cars, engines of all sorts are all they're all being invented.
Yeah, well, electric cars. I think the first electric car might have even been in the 1898 or something.
Yeah, it's pretty close to 1900.
And then steam cars and petrol cars, diesel cars.
In about 1914, the general opinion was that steam would be the mainstream power for most vehicles. But then Henry Ford invented his Tin Lizzie, and that was set in concrete after that. Yeah, amazing. So when you get your aeroplane ready, do you have to? I see you were dusting it.
That's because I've got a woodworking shop out the side there,
Oh.
and it gets pretty dusty. So I thought I'd better dust it off. You know, like having a bit of makeup artist.
So if you
for the
didn't do that,
aeroplane.
there'd be a big stream of dust going past you down the runway.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
So how far do you have to go to get the lift? I mean, it's got 3 wings. That means must have plenty of lift. So how far down that runway? 100 metres, 80 metres before you
Yeah, probably. I've not actually measured off. It gets off pretty quick, as you saw.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great fun to fly. It was a bit of a handful at the start, but we're quite fortunate. There's a whole host of pilots have retired to Whitianga, and Keith Skilling, who's a pretty famous aviator, New Zealand aviator that's done display flying and flown lots of First World War aeroplanes. He took me under his wing and gave me a couple of pointers.
Wow.
And he's been a godsend. So I'm enjoying it now.
You can draw on plenty of experience. Is pretty much what you're.
Yeah, it's a real haven of pilot experience at Whitianga.
Sure. So none of them get a job in the real world, but they're all got plenty of experience to share. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of ex-airline pilots and top dressing pilots and all sorts of stuff.
So when you have this thing out, do you get many people go and say, "I remember that"? You know, guys in their 90s.
well, generally, today was, it's a weekday, but if I pull it out on the weekend, the traffic sort of starts stopping along the fence line.
Oh, wow.
And you end up with a bit of a crowd. So it becomes a bit awkward because a couple of times I've just brought it out when I was doing my initial taxiing tests. So I'd take it out and the cars are stopping and I've got no intention of flying it. I'm just going to go and do a bit of taxi testing. Then you go and put it away and you almost hear the groan. Isn't he going to fly it?
And all the little cell phones all.
Yeah.
Wow.